KVCE. KVCE. Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
And welcome back to Gene Long's Biker World here on Inside the Game. Coming up on Thursday, June 28th, we will have a live NBA draft broadcast with the Good Sports guys. That's myself, Matt Swinney, along with Gordon Griffin and Matt Ferguella. That's a live NBA draft broadcast here on AM 1160 KVC. That's on Thursday, but right now, here is Gene Long.
Thank you very much, Coach Matt. And if somebody knows something about the draft, it'll be Coach Matt, I'm sure.
And we'll have the Dallas-Fort Worth Sports Angel calling in from the Maverick watching party coming up at the AAC. That'll be on Thursday.
Oh, cool. Well, tell her hi. We miss her. She's usually here in the studio with us.
Yes.
But tonight, thanks for coming back with us. We've got our biker babe here, Rhonda Newsom. And, of course, we got Coach Matt with us. And our in-studio biker group, who will be anonymous. And, of course, we already assessed that we have the beautiful Valerie in her extremely red shorts. And a black bustier. Hey, there we go. If that's a good descriptor. And the description I can't already give because I can't see the stiletto heels. Well, here we go. Our club tonight to talk about is the Outlaws. Now, I need to tell all of you out there, if you haven't been to the Outlaws website, go careful. They don't want you to talk about them. They don't want you to think about them. They don't want you to contact them. They say slow down. So we're going to go.
Why is that, Gene?
Well, they're just private bunch of guys. You know what? They actually are the oldest group. They started in 1935.
Wow.
And again, this is a reminder. A lot of people fail to realize that the bulk or majority of these bikers are ex-military.
Okay.
And we were talking, Rhonda and I were talking today. These guys, you know, there can only be so many people driving the boat. Somebody's got to row. You know, who's the most important guy on a Roman galley? Well, the guy steering? But you know what? Take away a few rowers and you've got a boat that's out of control.
Right.
So everybody can't be the hero. Everybody can't be in charge. And I think this is my personal observation. And I've been in the biker world since my first scooter and a long time ago, 50, 60 years ago.
You may get your next scooter at Moxie Scooters.
That's right, at 4117 Colleyville Boulevard in Colleyville tomorrow. How about that? That's good. But what's happened is these guys are out there and they want to feel like they belong. You know what? You don't have to have a lot of money. Little monthly dues. Monthly dues for a group like the Booze Fighters, for example, is about $35 a month, and then one time $35, $39 a year, something like that. So most of them have reasonable dues if they have any. Some don't have leadership. They don't have presidents. We were talking about the Vulcan guys tonight. What is the Vulcan Riders?
Vulcan Riders.
Yeah, the Vulcan Riders. They did a flyer we were looking at. Didn't have a phone number on. Didn't have any contacts. But again, these are people hanging together. You know, and your level of involvement may be up to you.
But you know, it all gets back to that organization, having the leader, and that's how you establish that brotherhood. If you don't have that, you have nothing.
Well, also, having a leader gives other people something to strive for, you know. It started at Matilda's Bar with the Outlaws in 1935. Matilda's Bar is on old Route 66 in McCook. If you hadn't heard where McCook, Illinois is, it's the southwestern suburb of Chicago. Now, during World War II, the club stayed together, but like most clubs at the time, their activities were certainly limited. Let's face it, all the guys were gone. You know, they were overseas. The founders of the Booze Fighters, they actually came back from over there. They were members of a group called the 13 Rebels. And they came back from the war and decided they wanted to get wild, get crazy, and have a good time. So guess what? In May 1946, the Outlaws attended the first major post-war motorcycle event in the Midwest, which was held at, are you ready for this? Soldiers Field, Chicago. How about that?
And if people don't know where that is, that's where the Chicago Bears.
That's it. And there again is that military connection. You know, in 1950, that brought a rapid expansion to the club. There were a lot of ex-military looking for brotherhood. And most of their members were from the Chicago area, so the club reestablished itself in Chicago and changed their logo to a small skull, replacing the wing motorcycle. What's funny is, while we're talking about this today, the wing motorcycle happens to be the emblem that the Vulcan riders have adopted. And that's kind of funny, the old English style letters.
Yeah.
This design was embroidered on a black shirt and was hand painted on the leather jackets. In 1954, the cross pistons were added to the original small skull. This design was embroidered on the black, and get this, Western style shirt with white piping.
Yeah.
White piping. And they claim the movie The Wild Ones influenced this back patch. But you know what? I'm not sure about that, because I think if I looked up The Wild Ones with Marlon Brando and Lee Marvin, you're going to find out that movie didn't come out till 55 or 56. So I think that's interesting information.
That was in 54.
When they changed it.
They changed it, right?
Unless they had a heads up. This kind of reminds me of the Frito Bandito guy.
Yes.
You know, the Banditos formed with the big man, the fat Mexican, in 1966, and the Frito company didn't do the Frito Bandito until 1968.
Right.
Clearly, 2 years difference. A little later tonight, we're going to find out that, guess what? Those skulls and pistons and all that on the back of the Outlaws is called Charlie. So it looks like everybody names their guys, you know.
Right.
In 1960, the AMA, which is an organization that stands for American Motorcycle Association, is an organization that supervises all the official motorcycle races in the USA and banned the word outlaw from all their race clothing.
Why was that?
Well, they just thought it was offensive.
Offensive.
It goes back to the censors at the time. They wouldn't even let the booze fighters be in a movie because the word booze. So they had, now this is a good story if you haven't heard it. They had to call the booze fighters in the movie the Beatles. Okay, the Beatles.
Right.
All right, now the movie was so offensive to the English public, that it was 10 years before kids in England could see The Wild One.
Right.
And there in the early 60s, sitting in the dark in the theater, were two guys, two friends, John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Wow.
And when they came out of the movie, they said, let's call our group after that group of bikers led by Lee Marvin. Let's call our group the Beatles. And in being who Paul McCartney is, he said, hey,
Right.
we'll change the spelling to beat, like the beat of the music, Beatles.
Right.
So that, the Beatles. I can tell you that I was just finishing up one of the hardest times of my life in Panama with the military, when a guy said, what do you think of the Beatles? And I said, the Crickets, the Beatles, what is this? And they were singing, I want to hold your hand. And I don't want to hold your hand. Who are these guys? And of course, they became big. About that time, 1963, the Outlaws Motorcycle became the official members of the 1% Brotherhood of Clubs. This made them the first official 1% club east of the Mississippi River. Now, if you forgot, or this is your first time to tune in, a 1% motorcycle club is what the AMA called the bad guys. They said 1% are bad guys, the other 99% are good guys. So right away, the Outlaws, the 1%, they took that as their badge, and they developed a diamond-shaped patch with the 1% in it, and it appears on most 1% club vests, or colors as they're called.
But isn't that odd how that thought process still pervades the biking world today? You and I, we go anywhere in our regular clothes, no one gives us a second thought. We go into a 7-Eleven or something after a ride in our leathers, and everyone's like, oh, bikers, you know, really.
That's, listen to Larry Hagman. Dallas just came back on the TV locally here, and it's quite a show, hey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Larry Hagman talked, and I talked to him one time, and he said, we were going down the street, and these bikers pulled up beside and said he had his wife and the kids in the car, and he said, don't look. And he said, I just sit there, look straight ahead, but in my mind, I was wishing it was me. I wanted to be there. And so within a few years, Larry Hagman became officially a biker and rode quite a bit. You know, there's bikers people don't realize. Of course, we've talked the last few weeks with Max Martini. He's a booze fighter. We've talked with Robert Patrick. He's the charter holder of Chapter 101 at the Booze Fighters, you know. And I'll tell you somebody else. Senator, he's now retired. Night Horse Campbell was a booze fighter too. Hey. Do you remember some years ago the snipers that were shooting everybody up north there?
Yes.
Okay, well, one of the guys who was killed responding, one of the police officers that was responding to the event was killed, was the last death from those snipers. He also was a booze fighter.
Wow.
How about that? I'll tell you what, it's going to be fun. July the 4th.
Yeah,
We're going to go to Voorhees. We're going to Voorhees, New York. July the 4th.
Okay.
That's what we're going to talk about when we come back.
Absolutely, and we'll talk more about the Outlaws coming up when we get back here on AM 1160 KVCE. You can listen to us online at kvceradio.com, also at kvceradio.com/sports. You can find out how you can listen to past episodes of Gene Long's Biker World. That's at kvceradio.com/sports. And we'll have more of Gene Long's Biker World here on AM 1160 KVCE coming up right after this.